We came up with an idea for a discussion for most interesting cars under £3,000. This is really because it is to show that you don't, even if you're only spending that kind of money on a car, you don't have to buy something that's sort of boring or basic or slow, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, it's something. The cars that we're going to talk about aren't necessarily going to be the cheapest to run, but you can pick them up for fairly little money.
I must say that's a budget I remember.
3,000.
It's a budget which I had to keep a tight rein on. And I managed it.
Yeah, recently as well.
Yeah. People may remember what I actually got for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, I say when you scan the classifieds sometimes, you come across things and think, oh, God, how much that cost? Because I remember when that was brand new, it cost an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
It doesn't always seem that long ago, though, does it?
No.
You see a massive price drop.
And I'm looking at cars now, and I'm looking at some of the ones we're going to talk about, and I remember when these were new, and I remember what they went for when they were new, and you just think...
I think some of these could also be potentially classics as well. So you get to a point, I mean, I can remember when the Jaguar E-Type, you couldn't give them away, and now look at them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the six figures easy, aren't they?
Yeah.
So we can see Craig's itching here, he's got a list of some
well,
potential cars.
we have got some notes here.
He's going to throw it at us and see what we think.
Okay. So chaps, this is probably the most oddball choice, I suppose you could say.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the Hyundai Grandeur?
I will flatly say I've not heard of that car name. Obviously I've heard of Hyundai, but not that make and model. Well, I can't bring that to mind.
Was it?
That's a no-no, Malcolm.
At first maybe I thought top at least just throw a joke in and made this one up, but I'm sure it's a car.
Well, I can't remember where I read this, but I read this a few, go back about 10 years or so now, that they only sold 11 a year in the UK. So that might,
Really?
that might be an idea why you... they were
Probably
why
never
you
seen
never
a
seen
picture
them.
of one, no.
Basically, it's an executive saloon. I think they were very popular in the States, called under a different name, I think. But yeah, so executive saloon, 3.3 litre V6 under the bonnet, absolutely loaded to the hilt with equipment, electric, everything, power this, power that. It was just absolutely loaded, and that's what it is, the Hyundai Grandeur.
To be fair, it sounds a bit of an American name, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
Grandeur. It sounds like some of the have in America.
That's grand, but that's grander.
That's Grandeur.
Yeah.
I've got a Grandeur car than my neighbour.
So
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, I came across this car in the classifieds, and I thought that is. I do remember it briefly from a few years ago. And I thought I've not seen one of them fit years.
So what on earth would they be selling for now?
Well, I think that you're looking around about, from what I've seen, you're looking around about the £1,500 to £2,000 mark. For one of them.
Certainly stand out.
It would, but wouldn't it be a gamble to run?
I don't think it'd be a classic.
I think
No.
one of the recurring theme here for most of the cars we're going to talk about is probably, I'm guessing, parts availability. If you're talking about a car that's 13 years old and they only sold 11 a year when they were new, what's the chance?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one.
Rocky nose, you know,
But, you know, nothing's impossible, but, you know,
You'd be sourcing a lot of parts from abroad.
well, I think so.
Yeah.
I suppose you just got to look at the markets where the car's most popular, because I imagine most things are going to be interchangeable. It's the same.
I think if I had money to play with to get another car in that sort of bracket, I think I'd shy away from that.
It's not going to be cheap to run. That's it. The 3.3 V6. Not sure about the insurance, but obviously it's going to use a bit of fuel for that. Moving on. I remember this car because I sat in one of these at the 2003 Birmingham Motor Show when they were new.
I remember.
Renault Velsatis.
No, I do remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Big 5-door hatchback
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Effectively replaced the Safran one.
It did, yeah.
Available with a number of engines. I know there was a 2 litre turbo, there was a 2.2 diesel and a 3 litre V6 diesel, and topped off with a 3.5 litre V6 pumping. I think it was about 245 brake horsepower. I think it was was it the same engine they put in a C50Z or something like that? I think they also put it in the Espace as well, believe it or not.
I think that was one of those cars, it was incredibly comfortable to be in, but you didn't want to be seen dead in it.
Yeah.
It's great from the inside.
Did it have the embarrassment factor?
I drove a 3.5 litre V6 and it was the top spec one as well, going back quite a while now, and to this day it is still the smoothest car ever driven. Yes, and they're well under £3,000 now. So I remember when they were new, the top spec one at least, I remember was, I think, knocking on the door of about £31,000, something like that.
That's a hell of a drop then, isn't it?
Which, wasn't, there was quite a lot.
Yeah, the thing is though, that they did with that car what Ford did with the Scorpio, when it had the Granada, and it was that nice hatchback, and then they released the Scorpio, the successor to it, and it was saloon or an estate only, and they'd attached that god-awful front to it.
That hopping front.
They took quite a good car and ruined it.
Yeah, basically like making the most fancy cake and then dropping a block of lard on top of it.
Yeah.
And the sister car for that, of course, it was the Aventime. You remember that?
I do remember that.
Which I thought it was best like a MPV slash 4x4 slash. It wasn't four-wheel drive.
It was a love child with a lot of them, I think. It was just a mishmash.
Yes.
I've left in the factory.
We've got spare bits here, we've got spare bits here. That's Bolton's.
Very rare car.
Typical French, they just had a mad moment and just cobbled it all together.
Yeah. Very rare car. I think it was less than 500 sold in the UK.
They really are sold in
Yeah.
the UK. didn't they?
I think one thing I remember, it wasn't a four. It didn't have a four-wheel drive system, but I think it was slightly raised up. But one thing I do remember is that it was the first car I remember that had a big sliding panoramic sunroof on it.
I do remember that.
The Aventime didn't have what I consider 4x4 looks. It just maybe just me, but to me it looked like it was slightly raised up. But anyway, Cadillac CTS.
I do like the American cars, but I'm not so sure about this one.
I think they came the 3.6 V6. I think it was a 2.8 V6 as well. They came
I
available
think
over
the
here.
thing with a lot of American cars is you got some big engines really, because in America you fuel's cheaper, things like that, and they love a big engine in nearly any car.
What I was thinking about that car though is obviously they did sell it over here officially in the UK, right-hand drive. What would the cost have been to convert that car to right drive and the sales that they got from it? I mean, I'm guessing here, but I'm not sure they made.
I think they were really lost out with that.
Yeah, I think it was a mistake.
I think they were really lost out with a car being converted to round and coming over here. It wouldn't sell.
I mean, the cost involved in doing that couldn't have been, cheap. I wouldn't have thought.
No, it wouldn't. It really wouldn't. Everyone might know I'm a bit of a secret American. I do love American cars, but there's certain ones I will just say no.
Martin, would you say no to this one? Chrysler PT Cruiser.
As the PT Cruiser stands, I don't even think it's American. I don't class it as American, that. It looks like a bread van.
Isn't that Batman's people carrier?
Yeah, it looks like out of a cartoon book drawing.
It's like something. It's like the Tim Burton villain's car from Batman.
Yeah.
Really.
And it seems to be very popular being modified as well. I've seen
There is a following where they really go to town with them, and there is a lot of custom afterparts to really change them, but I like it as a convertible. I do like it as a convertible because I think it dramatically changes the looks. It takes the ugliness away.
Yeah, I think the car looks so wacky and out there. I think taking the roof off it kind of suits it.
It does. I think actually that car should have just been made as a convertible, and that was it.
Ideally, with no roof ever being put on it.
Yeah, because I think it's the back end that lets it down. I think the styling team started at the front and either got bored halfway through the week or just passed it on the side.
I don't think the front, although the front looks very sort of a bit out there, I don't think it looks too bad actually.
Well, I'll mention one to you. Do you remember the Plymouth Prowler?
I do, yeah.
Now, I absolutely adore that car, and I would have one like that if I could get my hands on one and had the money. I thought that was an awesome car.
Absolutely crazy, aren't they?
Yeah. I really love that.
Two-seater grill.
Just like a hot rod, really.
Yeah.
The back of it was just like a hot rod, and the front all just nice and open. It's a really big whopping grill with the lights that just sort of stretch right out.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Unfortunately, unlike the Cadillac and the PT Cruiser, it was never sold officially in the UK, so...
I really think there was a cheaply made car.
Yeah, it was.
They were tinny. They were really tinny. I do know someone who I went to school with, whose sister's got one. If you ever see this video, you know what I'm talking about. It's still going. Still see the car running, but I'm sorry, it's a bread van. I just see the name plastered on side Joe's Breads and things like that.
Yeah.
That's all.
Was that actually plastered on the side of it?
If you could blank out all the windows at back and all that, it's just a bread van.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's fair to say on that one, this is a car that certainly defines opinion. I mean, fair enough, if you love it, you love it. And
It's a Marmite car.
I'm not from it taking that away from you.
I'm sure there's people out there that haven't got one or love them and they're saying, what are you talking about?
There's no doubt, as we've said, there's quite a following in a scene for them.
There is, and you'll find, actually, I think you will find a following of most cars if you dig deep enough. There's always people that love or hate cars.
It's certainly a Marmite car. Personally, on that one, I'm on the fence. I'm not quite sure about that one.
I wouldn't. I don't like them.
I'd only have one if it were a convertible.
Yeah, I do like the convertible, yeah. I do like it.
That's the only way I would
It
have
does
one.
look good, yeah. And I do
I
know-
wouldn't even have one that's been cherished and heavily modified and all that because I just don't like the design of the back. So it'd have to be a
I
competitor.
do know someone, I know of someone who has a PT Cruiser convertible, so yeah.
I just think it dramatically changes the looks for such a simple idea.
It does. Fiat Barchetta. I think I pronounced it
That
right.
sounds like a type of Italian bread. I just don't know anything about this car. I don't even think I've ever seen it, or if I have, I didn't know
You
it was
didn't
that
know about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, two-seater convertible, similar to, I suppose, similar to an MGTF, that kind of
Yeah.
MX-5, that type of thing. The interesting thing to note about the Fiat is that regardless of where it was sold in the world, it was left-hand drive only. You know that, Alfred?
It was, yeah.
Now you mentioned the type of car it is, I think I'm getting a bit mixed up here. I've probably seen it. I didn't know that was its name.
Yeah, it was, I think, based on the Fiat, was it Mark 1 Punto it was based on, wasn't it,
Yeah.
originally? Yeah, but based on the Mark 1 Punto. Very, very nice little car. A lot of character.
I
A
think
lot of character.
because you've got left-hand, right-hand drive Puntos, it could be possible to convert it to left.
There are people, I think, that have converted it to right-hand drive.
Well, if you remember, we did our left-hand drive Punto, didn't we?
Yeah.
What an experience that one.
Yeah, I actually saw that car this weekend.
I keep seeing it on my way home from work. Well, hearing it as well.
Yes, do check out that video if you want to see what we're on about.
It was the first time for me being sat in the wrong side. I expected the steering wheel in front of me.
Because of the clutch that's in that car, you can't help but actually just fly off.
Well, you drove it, didn't you? And then when you got going, we were both sort of bringing back every time it's saying it were an experience.
It's an interesting experience driving left-hand drive, also as me and Malcolm know from being in Portugal. With the Peugeot 308 and the Fiat Tipo video. It took a bit getting used to, didn't it?
It did. And the one thing was though, but if we'd have carried on in that car park, we'd have been there all day getting used to it. We'd have had to go out on the road.
It took us about 10 minutes to get out of the airport.
I didn't know this. When they were on holiday doing this, I didn't know they were going around and around. What you don't see.
Well, I think we were out of the car park. What did the roundabout we kept going round and round?
They must have thought you were crackers.
Well, Becky says to me, "You're in the wrong lane," so I changed, and I thought, I wasn't. I was supposed to. When I ended up going back in towards the airport, and then I had to turn around. It's like I was going through the bit I was planning to go through anyway. It's like, no, I was right.
It was an interesting experience, to say the least. But
It was.
I think by the end of the week, I was just about there with it. But it took me getting used to.
So this Fiat then, I don't really...
Yeah, the Fiat Barchetta, sorry, we're going off topic there. Fiat Barchetta, two-seater convertible, similar to the MG or the MX-5, that type of thing, based on the Mark 1 Punto. Just a lot of character. It was a cracking little thing to drive.
Yeah, the engine.
1.8 wasn't it?
Yeah, and it had this funny little rattle to it, but it kind of added to the character.
Yeah.
It sounds like one of these cars that you'd really take to, wouldn't you, that's got a lot of little character about it, isn't it?
I mean, it's the recipe, isn't it? It's a small little Italian sports car. I mean, what's not to love about it, really?
But sometimes, you might not agree with me, but I find a lot of Fiats soulless.
I don't think you can call a Barchetta that.
No, I mean,
And I think this is why this would be
Yeah.
a really good car to have, because it'll be completely different.
I know there are Fiats that spring to mind that
yeah,
are like that.
But I'm going back at the times when it was same as some of the Citroens were a bit soulless as well. You got some that were good in that and had character, but there were some that just...
They lost the way a bit in the 90s, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think, with the...
So I think that sounds like that'd be a right little pocket rocket, that, and that
Yeah.
will probably be a good one to own.
So yeah, they are now under £3,000. It used to be a fair bit more than that.
A good example, one of them would probably be a good car to have.
They're starting around £3,000. You can pay more than that for it. They're starting, from what I've seen anyway, around about the £3,000 mark. If you're after obviously an Inte example or a late one, because I think they went to from about 1995 to 2005. There might have been, I think, remember they had a bit of a break in production somewhere in the middle. I could be wrong, but I think that was what happened. And then they brought out, I think they brought out a slightly updated model, and that went on to about 2005 in the UK anyway. And if you're after a late one, a mint one, you can probably be looking quite a bit more than £3,000. But they do start around.
I just wouldn't be able to tell anyone the name, I'd just be thinking about a loaf of bread, Italian loaf of bread or something like that. And I just say it's a little Fiat running around, that's all it is.
Yeah, it's
thinking bread, you've got the name.
Yeah, it's one of them fancy loaves you pick up in Sainsbury's or something like that.
certainly interesting little car.
Yeah, I can imagine it is,
and,
yeah.
Are we branding again, by the way?
No branding. Other supermarkets are available.
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo GTV, keeping with the Italian theme here.
Now,
And this is the 90s model.
we know, I'm not going to mention names, but we know all the other car people and all that say you're not a proper petrol head unless you've owned an Alfa. I do agree with that saying,
I do know somebody who's owned an Alpha.
but I've not owned an Alpha of my own.
I've never owned an Alpha.
No.
I'd like to own an Alpha. I've never owned an
But
Alpha.
I like Alphas. I always like the style of Alphas, old and new.
I don't think it matters whether you buy an old or a new one. I think
The only thing is, if you're buying an old one, you can effectively have some parts that will write the car off.
They are a risky car, aren't they? At the end of the day, they are temperamental.
they're a car, I think it's fair to say that you buy with your heart, not your head.
Well, they are.
Aren't they?
And but as you can
I mean,
see in the design, that's
Yeah.
how they're designed them. It's a passion, isn't it? How they're designed.
It is a passion. I mean, you look at an Alfa Romeo and it looks like nothing else, does it? You know instantly what it is, whether it's a brand new one or
You don't have to be a massive car fan to know how
No.
for real. You don't.
I don't think you have to be a massive car fan to like them either.
No, you don't. No.
You know,
Most people do take to Alphas, they do. So this one we have here,
this is a 90s model, so they did do a GTV obviously quite a bit before that,
Yeah.
but this is the 90s GTV, it had the twin headlamps, if
Yeah.
you remember,
I do
and that sort of
remember that,
strip lights along the back.
yeah.
I think they came with a number of engines, this 2 litre, they even did some diesels, and obviously the 3 litre and a 3.2 V6, which was absolutely glorious. You pop the bonnet into one of them, and all you see is these chromed in their pipes.
This were it. Most
Yeah.
cars you pop a bonnet and it's all black and gloomy plastic covers. All
Wow.
Nothing impressive. Let's say you pop an Alpha bonnet up and
They went to the effort of chroming
They did,
the
yeah.
inlet pipes, didn't they?
yeah, they did.
Absolutely stunning car. I mean, even the engine looked good.
It did.
Yeah.
You'd be worried
Yeah,
about
that's
driving
the
it for the fear of getting any dust and usual road grime on it because
Just imagine polishing.
it was just a masterpiece of most
Yeah.
engines and Alphas, and that's one of the things that they always did. And
Yeah.
I would probably chance the Alpha.
I mean, I think if you're buying something like that, the chances are it's not going to be an everyday car anyway. It's going to be
No.
a weekend car. Isn't it?
No, if I had the money floating about, I think I would chance me now at an Alpha.
Yeah, I remember they were lovely cars, and even the interior was a nice design, and especially if you had one with like tan leather and things like that, or even red leather seats as well. I think we probably, it's fair to say, looking at our list here, with the possible exception of one other, the Alpha probably has the biggest following.
Probably,
in terms of enthusiasts.
You will get a lot of followers with Alphas.
There's lots of, and you know what, it's not the end of the world looking after one either, because there's a lot of specialists out there now for Alfa Romeos.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple of those off the top of my head.
Well, you've got your owners clubs, as you will find a lot of cars, but
Yeah.
you have the Alpha.
There's a lot of specialists out there who will do stuff
And
relatively
there's a few
good.
places as well that actually will forge new parts as well if the parts are out of production and unavailable.
Fabricate new ones. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know, it's backup planners.
So moving on now, we're going on to a bit of a different theme here. Obviously, the theme that we've had so far tends to be sort of sports cars and executive cars. Rover 25 MGZR. Now, bear with me. We've covered this sort of car a fair bit on Overdrive, haven't we?
We have a lot, because we've all been owners of
We've
them.
Yeah.
reviewed my old one, and
We both own.
I've had
you've
a,
owned one.
well, my dad had a Rover 400, I had a Rover 200 at the same time, and then I also had an MGZR, which I wish to today I still had.
I wish I still had my 25. It was a shame when the engine decided it didn't want to be an engine anymore, but there we
I
go.
did a review on it, and then that happened. But,
Yes,
yeah.
and then I had the ZR, mine was LPG converted as well, so the 1.8. And
Alright, yeah.
it was fantastic car, fun to drive. I mean, that took me all over the country when I was working at Network Rail. And you know, you look after them, they look after you.
No, so I put here 25 and ZR, but to be honest, this really covers any Rover and MG, I think, because they're all, you can all pick them up, any one of them up now from well under £3,000.
You still see a lot about.
The thing is, as well, the original MGF is now starting to, is actually being highlighted by many places to be increasing in value and well on the way to becoming a bona fide classic car. So buying one now in reasonable condition could very well be a good investment.
Yeah, I mean things like, what I've noticed anyway, things like Metros,
Yeah.
Metros and that type of thing, the Rover 4 became the Rover 100 of course, they're starting, you know, you're starting to get mint low mileage, and I mean low mileage, 20,000 mile examples coming out of the woodwork now.
Well, look when we were at the Harrogate show, look at all them
Yeah,
examples of MG and Rovers.
and the prices of these cars, I mean I remember when you couldn't pay more than £500 for a Rover 100, and now we're talking, for these examples that are coming out now, we're talking up to and over £2,000.
Well, the Metro GTA, that's now going up in value, it's rocketing in value.
And if you can find a Metro / Rover 100 convertible,
Ooh, yeah.
They, especially a nice one,
Yeah.
they really are starting to
Rocket.
increase in value quite a bit now. And
But I always liked my ZR.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was, I won't say it was basic and it won't flash, but it was simple and easy to maintain and it just never let me down. Mine was only 1.4, but it was like a little pocket rocket.
Yeah.
And I loved how it handled it up the road like anything.
Because they did the 1.4 and 2 power guys, didn't they? They did an 84 and 103 brake, I think. All the ZRs were 103s, and in the Rover 25 you could have either. Now the one I had did have the 103 horsepower, and it did. It was a nippy little car. Yeah, I absolutely loved it, and it handled well, and it went.
I remember my neighbour was still next door to me now, and when I got that car and he saw it, he says, "Yo, you've got that red car there." He says, "Big bad boy exhaust on it and all, big spoiler and all." He says, "It's great, isn't it?" He says, "About that cost." I said, "Well, that's how it all comes. That's how it is." And at the time, MG was doing things like that with the ZR and that, which other companies wasn't doing with the cars, and people were having to mod the cars to do that. And they were doing it as standard.
It's a real shame. I was absolutely gutted to see MG Rover.
Well, I remember it happening because I had my car at the time.
Yeah, I was at college at the time, and I remember thinking, and it sounds sad to this, but I remember thinking, how can you not have Rover?
Yeah.
It was always a brand.
I grew up with them, and it seemed strange, but yes, it's a sad occasion when that happened. But again, it's been similar to the sort of Fiats and the Alphas. There's a lot of enthusiasts out there still. Last but not least, and this is going completely off topic here, completely different to most of the cars we've talked about, because it is relatively basic compared to the cars that we've spoken about already. Dacia Sandero. They are now under £3,000, believe it or not. But you know what's interesting about this is that they obviously, when they were new, they started off at, I think they're about £7,000 now. They used to be about £6,000, I think, when they started off. It's took this long to come to under £3,000. And for a car that cost so little to start with, that's amazing.
It's a very good return. It's a very good rate of depreciation, isn't it?
Especially considering how many there are about, because in the UK when Dacia launched it at the back end of 2012, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Early 20. I know, because the first one I saw in the flesh was in December 2012.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at buying one at the time, and I didn't end up with a Toyota Aygo, but that's a different story. The first one was in December 2012, and since they were launched over here, they've been incredibly successful.
But can you remember, it is a long time now, when Skoda was, let's say, a butt of a joke,
Yeah.
and now look at Skoda. Why is it I get a feeling with some of these car manufacturers that are still cheap and cheerful like this, eventually will come a time when they'll be leaps and bounds ahead of what they are.
Look at Kia. I mean,
And
Kia
Kia's
started
another
off
one.
as
Yeah.
cheap and cheerful,
They
and
did.
now we've got
Remember the Kia Pride?
yeah,
And
and now we've
Things
got
like that.
now we've got the Kia Stinger, which starts at around £30,000.
And now look at that car, and I have one of them to drop of that. I think that is an awesome car.
Actually, it doesn't start around £30,000. It starts below £30,000.
It does actually start below, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We thought at first we'd be topping up to the 40 grand mark for the top of the range. didn't we?
Top of the range, it actually comes under 40.
And it is coming under. And I think it's a whopping car for what the money is for it. So it just shows how companies
It
like
does,
that
I mean,
change.
I think that's your say Renault, because I think
It is part of
they're under the
it.
Renault,
It is.
aren't they? They've noticed that gap in the market.
They have.
In this country, it's obviously, it used to be your Hyundai, your Kias, now they were the entry-level point of a new car. And they've moved up market, as to be expected. The prices have moved up market as well.
They've now filled that
And
gap
they've
again.
noticed that and think, hang on, there's a gap in the market here. And that's great, because it's...
Doesn't that say eventually then there'll be some others that'll do the same? Other companies will crop up?
Well, there was Dave.
Well, I do admit that the day of it is.
Although they
And then it was Chevrolet.
It became Chevrolet,
They basically
yeah.
just pulled the badge off and put a Chevy.
But then Chevrolet have pulled out of the European market now as well. I think in 2014, apart from the Corvette and things
Yeah.
like that you can still buy. But yeah, the Sandero, Dacia in general, I just think it's an interesting concept, and this will be something that hopefully Malcolm and Martin, I think, will be covering at some point next year. But yes, the Sandero and Dacia in general.
I mean, you're basically buying an old Clio, really. But having said that, the Clio isn't a bad car anyway. So you're not
Well, this
losing
is
out.
it. Yes, you're buying. Obviously, the Sandero itself is based on the previous generation Clio, as we all know. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
It wasn't a bad car. Because I used to have a Clio 182,
Yeah.
and I always thought it was a car that covered a lot of aspects. Because on one hand, it was the brilliant hot hatch. You took it around some country, it was fantastic. And then on the other hand, I used to go through Wiltshire in Cheshire, on the way up to Manchester Airport and that a few times, and it looked like the classy French Super Mini that it was, but it's xenon lights and it's beautiful black paintwork. Well, as we've seen with our list here, the French are fantastic, or equally good at making a hot hatch as they are an executive car.
To the gun strike.
And that used to be the curse of the British.
It did, isn't it funny how British Leyland and all that in the 70s when everything was brown and cold and dust, disease and all that, and outdoor toilets and things like that, and you had to take a torch with you and all that, and they were always going on strike, weren't they?
Yeah.
And you did get some poorly made cars, but well, then times have changed. They really have, and it's a good job, isn't it?
But yeah, I said the Sandero itself is based on a Clio, but they kept things relatively simple. They kept the colour options simple.
They did.
They kept the options list relatively small. The one thing I liked about it was when they launched. Obviously, a lot of car makers they differ specifications depending on which model you buy, and that's usually the case for sort of safety equipment. It used to be, at least, anyway. But when the Sandero came out, no matter whether you had the £6,000 one or the £11,000 one, you had the exact same level of safety equipment, airbags, that type of thing, no matter which one you had. Everyone had 4 airbags, everyone had ABS.
So basically the ones that you were paying the most for, you were just getting other optional extras.
You get,
your main standard features you always got for across the board.
Well, at least for the safety features.
Yeah.
It was exactly the same no matter which one you had.
Well, shouldn't that really be how cars go?
Yeah.
I don't like how sometimes the skim on things, or you have to pay extra.
You can understand manufacturers saving the expensive ones for putting air conditioning on and that kind of thing, for luxury features.
Yeah.
But in terms of safety features, in my opinion, every car, no matter whether you buy the cheapest one, should have the exact same level of safety features. I know at least in the UK market, the Sandero came with
Everything.
the same safety equipment, the same on the basic as the top one.
A couple of my Focus STs had a good safety feature that Ford didn't do away with. The bright colours. So if anyone stepped out in road in the car, say, I never saw him coming.
Yeah.
Tangerine screen was it?
Well, and the electric orange in the old
Electric
ST,
orange,
which
yeah.
I wish I had that you could have filmed because that was a good car.
Yeah, it was. But yes, that's basically the list that we've come up with.
Well, I think I better add one to that list. Obviously, people know that I had, and I got mine for under £3,000, and that was my Ford Puma.
Of course,
And a 17-year-old car. There is still a following with the Puma, as I found out.
Yeah.
People now really hunt out the ones that are down to hundreds, mainly for parts and things like that. And you still can. You can get tons and tons of parts for them. Fortunately, we've been shared with Fiesta at the time.
Yeah, and of course the racing Puma as well. That's got quite a following.
I still see some of them advertising if there's low mileage and no rush showing and in our good nick, they're still going up to the 17,000 plus mark. I saw a W reg one and it looked in immaculate nick and I thought, oh, he's got a smart car in his hands there, until I went round the passenger side and he had a section on the door which had rusted like mad and he tried to cut it out and do all sorts and it looked a mess. And the rest of it was mixed. I think they just changed the damn door.
Yeah, well the thing about the racing Pumas is the arches were different. They were wider, weren't they?
Yeah, and they didn't always rust the same. Because when they made the racing Puma, they knew about the issues that the Puma was already suffering. Ford knew at the time, when they first issued that Puma, they recalled thousands that was in the red colour.
Yeah.
Because the paint was going wrong.
This was on a relatively new car at the time. Yeah.
I remember seeing a write-up about a chap that bought an RH one, that was obviously new at the time, and he'd had it weeks and he was taking it back because there was paint coming off and breaking off it. And they discovered an issue and they knew there was something. I think it was made quickly. I think at the time, Ford was making this car based on the Fiesta of the time, but they were concentrating on changing from that Fiesta to the next mark. And they put everything into that new Fiesta.
Having said that, there is a few little cheats you can do. Remember you were saying about leather interior?
Yeah.
If you get the leather interior from a Ford car,
Yeah.
it's exactly the same.
It's the same, yeah. There is a lot of things with the Puma you can play about with and do, and I know people have done lots of things with them.
I think at the time, you've got to remember, they must have brought it out relatively quick because of course Vauxhall had the Tigra on sale.
Yeah.
He went up against the Tigra, but the Tigra basically was dreadful.
Yeah.
It was,
It was.
like, honestly, it was like sitting on this and going down the road.
But the thing was, the Corsa at the time was quite light at the back.
Yeah,
So if you were driving along on the motorway quite quickly, it felt like it was lifting.
yeah, it did.
And the thing was, the Tigra was even lighter at the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't dare drive that down the motorway.
Did you ever see the rear seats in the back of the Mark 1 Tigra?
Oh yeah, my cousin had a Vauxhall Vectra.
They weren't really seats, they were just kind of padding attached to the...
A lot of one of those
Okay.
attachments, but
Okay.
it was awful. My cousin had a Vauxhall Vectra and he was having some work done. He went in the garage and they gave him a courtesy car and he thought he was going to get a Corsa or something like that, or even another Vectra, anything. And when they presented him with what car he was getting as a courtesy car for the week, it was
A Tigra.
one of them.
Yeah.
And he says, come and have a look at this. And we went out in that car and I was glad to get out of it because we thought, wow, we were going to lift and spin and all, and we just felt awful. Now my cousin's nearly double my age, he's right up to the ceiling. And how we got in this Tigra, I don't know. We were basically like this. It was like this. And I was sat there like that, petrified, and I thought, we're going to crash. And we just felt every bump in the road.
I suppose they were trying to make it sporty. I suppose in
Well, it's sporty and then the rally stage dangerous. Because that's how it felt. But we've all touched on Fiestas, I
We've
suppose.
all owned Fiestas, and I think that's probably the same for most
And as
people.
going back to this, we've all always been in a situation where we've had or needed cars under a certain price range.
Yes, of course.
And we all know what happens with them, part and parcel of owning them and so on.
The thing is, some people do have budgets they need to stick to, and some people just simply don't want to spend a fortune on a car.
Some people just after something different.
Now, some of you out there may agree with this list, some of you may have been shouting at the TV.
Why
saying,
didn't you look at
include
this?
this? Why did
Yes.
I know that there's this?
Yeah.
If you know of any, comment, let us know.
Here's an oddity that you could have included on that. Is the Aguila currently under 3,000? I would have thought it would be.
Oh, the original one, yeah, Vauxhall, yeah.
I mean, Vauxhall, I mean, what kind of company? I mean, Vauxhall at the time were producing some fairly poor cars. There was the Vectra, the original Vectra.
Which my cousin had, and he hated it.
There was the Astra, which was pretty much, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't brilliant. If you got the bottom of the range, the lower end range, it was god awful. So we ended up with them as company cars. And it was horrible. And then they sort of looked at the Suzuki Wagon-R and thought, well, we'll have a bit of that. What?
Yeah, that shoebox.
But the thing is, the design of that car was for a reason.
Japanese market.
It was, because obviously the Suzuki Wagon-R in Japan, there's certain regulations. I think it's something like you have a car of a certain width or length or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's basically their tax rule.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's also the reason why that car was...
Well, I think if you look at a lot of car companies, and I don't mean them all, but a lot of them, they all have their moment of, oh, why did you make that car?
Yeah.
There's lots of them. I think most companies you could see through.
then,
Excluding,
yeah,
let's say,
what-
prestige car companies.
What I talked about today, this is just our opinion.
It is,
Somebody
and,
else may look at that and go, no.
There will
I'm
be
actually
people
really
saying, well, why didn't you include this, or I can think of that. As I've said, comment, let us know. Give us a
If
list.
you think there's an interesting car that would miss
Because we'd like to mention them if you know of them. But there is some interesting ones on there. There is some which I would have a dabble at owning. There's some which I wouldn't touch with a barge pole, which was extended with a barge pole on top of a barge pole. But that's my opinion, and other people will have other opinions.
No, we're not saying these are the best cars to buy under £3,000. We're just saying that some of the more unusual and interesting. I say we've got some cheap cars there with the Sandero and the Rover. We've got sports cars or two-seat sports cars with the Parketta and GTV Plus. I think that's it, Jack.
That's it, yeah. Thanks to Craig for that list. It's brought back some memories as well, especially with the MGZ and things like that. So it's been good to touch on that.
Hope you enjoy it. See you next time.